finances. It just comes down to, having somebody in that role that's, that has the time, or they're being, compensated for it. It's an expensive place to live. And so, the people that are within hockey are spread too thin. Like, I coached 3 teams last year. Like, it was just ridiculous. So, I think that's a big consideration now. You're trying to get people that have been in the game and that have coached the game, try to give back to it. But as I say, they're spread pretty thin, but it's definitely needed, Wally.
Okay. I guess I'm curious here, Tom. You're the only person you've always coached. Have you mentored Tom before?
I did it with that Cochrane group for a while, but I didn't enjoy it because if the coach doesn't ask you, I found they kind of thought that you were a secret supervisor going to report on him or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I have you mentored me for years and years, but I ask you.
Yeah.
I just, I think the process has got to be changed somehow so that coaches can meet a whole bunch of people and say, somehow that the coach asks the person to be there, or else maybe some table of contents or something about the different mentors and what their kind of specialty is.
Yeah.
So if, a coach needs help on some tactical thing, you get in touch with that person, and team building another person. I don't know. It's a tricky thing when people are, so like the last time I was with the Royals, they told me I'm going to have this mentor of somebody that was assistant coach for major junior 15 years ago, but he was on vacation. And I'm sitting there thinking, what's he going to do for me? Like, hasn't even been in the game for 15 years. And to put people that you don't know. So it's a tough one. I try to mentor. I have 6,600 people on my site here. Ice hockey coaching youth to pro. So I kind of do a general mentorship there. And I just posted your breakout with the goalies passing.
Yeah.
Your practice, and then the way I like to do 6-on-5. So.
Yeah. I guess my question, like Tom, in your case, the only reason I got involved was not to offer anything to you, but to protect you. I found my role as a mentor was just to keep the wolves off the backs of the coaches, because there's so much criticism going on behind the scenes. Everybody's an expert, and you're always faced with those criticisms that can be really stressful for a coach. So I have to admit,
especially at that quadrant hockey, because everybody thinks, that is the first step to being in the NHL, and they don't actually know what you're doing, but you're not doing what they think, but they're also not very expert. So, well,
I'm going to ask everybody for some feedback here. I've made an application to the Southwest Athletic Association in Calgary. What they've done here, Tim, for the first time, each quadrant has created 3 so-called elite Pee-wee hockey teams, U13, because the quadrant level is your competitive level of hockey, your AA, AAA, and your community hockey. The kids are looking for a more competitive and serious atmosphere. So I've made an application, and Tom, you know the organization. I know the president. He's asked me, I think, more as a courtesy to make an application. And so I did. And I think it's an opportunity at that level where it's not as out of focus as the AAA level, and the shortening of the bench is the biggest concern. And I don't know that there's any old school abusive coaching going on today, but I still hear stories about that. But is there any of you got any advice for me if you were going to mentor 3 teams in a quadrant in a typical AAA association, what would you suggest?
Well, Wally, I would suggest what I just talked about is give them a table of contents kind of a thing, okay? And
Yeah.
say, okay, so the coach asks you, can you help me with a power play? Can you help me with a power check? And the coach asks you to come and do stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of you being there as, kind of like they just feel threatened with a guy just being there because the Royals have sent them there, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that would make the coaches more relaxed and saying, yeah, I asked for that. What do you think, Tim and Dom?
Dominic, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, there's always that little bit of, you're always second guessing yourself a little bit there. So, I just say if you were to give them, say, hey, listen, these are the elements that I can help out on. I agree with that. I agree with what Tom's saying there. Because there's, especially if it's somebody that's been put in there, they almost feel like it's a spy or, and that's just, I guess maybe it's just human nature. I know even at the higher levels, whenever there was somebody kind of overlooking what you were doing, you're always a little bit apprehensive. So if it was more, initiated from the coaches that, hey, listen, we're having a hard time with, bench management or with this attitude of this kid on the bench, or we're having a hard time with, breaking out of our end, then, they come to you. But no, that makes sense to me.
Okay. So what I've heard from the association, they want you to go to a game a week, 3 games on the weekend with 3 different teams. They didn't mention practices, and my preference is just watching practice and then asking questions. But I think I would change my approach just from hearing what you guys have said here. I just don't think it will work, unless you provide those options and they ask for you or they call for your help. And that's rare and far between. The complaints will start coming down, and that's when you get involved because people are complaining. And I'm just not sure what to do. So, Mike Benelli, you're on, and I'll just give you an update about what we've been talking about. I've made an application to mentor U13 quadrant hockey here, which would be AA, AAA boys, and really reluctant. I put in a proposal, and the role of mentorship, Dominic and Tom have both said the coach has to ask you for what they need. They have to let you know what you might be able to help them with. Have you got any experience in mentorship, Michael?
Yeah, I'm actually doing I'm doing a lot of that now. So I agree. It's the same philosophy I think I give. And congratulations, by the way. That's great. They're really lucky kids. But I think it's the same way when I speak to like private skating and skills instructors, right? About, you need to interview the kid, and I think more importantly, sometimes interview their coach and figure out, what it is that the deficiencies that the kid thinks, their pluses and their minuses, but also what does their coach think, so that, the messages are the same when they go back and forth to their teams. And I think it's the same way with mentoring, teams and individual other, like I do a lot of mentorship of young coaches, and it's really about, okay, where are your pain points? Like, what do you want me to help you with? And what do you think you're good at? and what do you think you need help with? And then, as we go through, usually like week 4, 5, or 6, I can have a little regroup with them and say, well, listen, I think you're actually stronger at this than this, and then there's a real conversation going on there then.
How are you able to make that happen? Like you said, real conversation.
Well, so I just try to ask them, it's almost similar to your mission statement. I mean, I really try to ask them to be, give me an honest assessment of who they are. And most of the coaches that I work with now, I require them, or, I guess it's not required, but it's a strong recommendation that at the end of the year, they do an exit survey with all their parents and their kids. And I do that myself. I mean, sometimes it's pretty brutal and it's not something I want to hear, but often it's just reinforces the fact that I think I had done a good job with the team overall. And you'll get little snippets of, what people didn't like, but overall, I think they understand if you're communicating that way. So I think for me, that's how I do it. I really try to have them give me what their top 3 things are that they want to work on, or what they feel they need, and their top 3 strengths. And then we get together and talk about the fact that, well, I agree or don't agree with that.
Just generalizing here, what are the things you think they need the most help with?
Most of the coaches, the young guys that I work with are being more, are their demeanor, like their body language and their ability to be, not coach to all the deficiencies they see out there. And that's hard for me too. I mean, I think it's hard you guys talk about it all the time. I think it's hard for any coach. I think the biggest thing for me is that they start to understand that, there's a big difference between, being the kid's friend and being the kid's coach. And I do understand that there's a lot of coaches out there. I'm just not that guy. Like, I'm not that coach that's the friend of the kids. That's probably something that I need to work on. But I tend to be less of that. I love communicating, and I'll talk, and I try to open myself up that I can be, have a good relationship with my players. But I just never really want them to think I'm their buddy. And to me, that's just my own way of coaching. I don't work well in there. So I just try to, I think that's, so when I'm with the young guys that I work with, they get especially the ones that get paid and working with these, AAA programs.
Yeah.
The fact that they become friends with the parents and the kids, and, they're kind of hanging out, and, they're at the bar, or they're in a situation where it just becomes too social. I think that's where a lot of them really fall. And that's the main thing I really try to work with them on. And the fact that they try to script everything. I think we all, I think when you become a new coach, you want to script everything and feel like the kids aren't, you're screaming and yelling at the kids. And I'm like, well, you're screaming and yelling at them, but you just didn't direct them very well. And, so we try to work on that. And I'm a big believer in just being having pre-planned and set up practices. And I think, in my area where I am, it's 90% of the coaches just don't come to practice prepared. It's like the wing it coach. And that's, something I work on every day.
Who hires you to do what you do?
Right now I'm go through organization. So actually I just started a new program with Mike Weaver with Coach Them. And then I do a lot of stuff through the coaches site, but that, I actually, through that directors club that I run, most programs will reach out to me and say, hey, listen, we have this crop of new coaches coming in. They're guys and girls that just finished playing pro or college, or, maybe they were, great high school player back in the day, and they all love hockey. They all can teach hockey. They can all skate and jump over borders and do spinoramas, but they can't, but they really don't know the nuances of coaching. And I wish I had that. Like when I was a young coach, before I had kids, I wish somebody that had children that was a coach to me, because I think it would have made me a much different coach when I was, 23, 24, 25 years old.
how have you found like the feedback on your surveys? You're obviously maintaining employment doing this, and in your mind, do you feel it's working?
Yeah, I mean, I've been successful at it. I mean, I keep getting calls back from the same organizations, and they most of the organizations I work with, like all my, I guess if you want to call it clients, are, I don't advertise, so it's all word of mouth, and it's all somebody introducing me to somebody else and saying, hey, Mike worked with these 3 guys last year, and they really had a great, uh, you know, their season ended well, and I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm just talking about, they didn't have 17 kids quit their team and leave the program in flames. And I think that's, like, to me, again, I'm working really rec programs, mostly programs that don't have the big resources of these huge, like I work with, like my personal places. I coach with the Connecticut Junior Rangers, which is part of like Mid Fairfield, Connecticut Junior Rangers. This is like it's a big machine, and I tend to not work with those organizations as much as the ones that are run by parents that really, every year there's a new board, and every year they're trying to reinvent the wheel. So I try to be, that 35-year veteran hockey director to them, and then be almost a coaching director to their coaches.
I like what you said about reinvent the wheel, because that's what I found here, and Tom could comment on that, is that you usually have a board that will be there as long as their kids are involved, from the age of 13 now up to the age of 18. So you might have the same people on board, but they're going to transition out. One of the things that some boards have done, they've managed to maintain the same presidents for 3 generations of players, which has provided a degree of stability. Some hire, they have every president stay on an extra year to help with that transition, because the problems keep reoccurring, and like you said, Mike, it just recycles. They want to reinvent the system. They've got better ideas. I think there's a better way of doing things. And that's,
the new ideas are great, but the problem is it's like it doesn't stick. Like, so somebody will come in, they'll do something for a year, and then you always hear in every organization, "Oh, we tried that and that didn't work." I go, "Well, did you try it in a way where you set it up to fail, or did you try it in a way to set it up to succeed?" And I think that's where I try to come in, and I'm very vulnerable with them about that. I'm like, "Listen, I've made literally every mistake in the book over 30 years. I mean, I've ordered the wrong size jerseys for kids. I've scheduled too many games on Mother's Day. I've set up road trips that were unsuccessful, and the right hotel." So what I try to do is come in and say, "Listen, these are the kind of things that I've made mistakes in, and you as a board, your job is to make sure that all your kids are kind of loved and that they're learning. My job to you is that I give you the opportunity not to have to keep wondering how to do it, because I'm just going to give you the secret to the sauce."
anybody got any comments? Dom, it's interesting being from Canada in the States. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm in a bit of a little bit of a different situation. Obviously, I mean, I'm the board, I'm the president, I'm the everything from top to bottom. So, it's interesting just to talk about boards and that. I mean, obviously, I have the school that I have to deal with, and the AD and the president and that, but there's really not much in the way of hockey knowledge, where I'm at, and I'm competing and dealing with parents that are not educated on and what their kids needs are. So yeah, no, I mean, I don't have much in the way of comments on what Mike's saying. I just find it interesting. I'm going to need to set up a call with Mike. I think maybe go over some of the details and just on structure and that. But no, it's from the if I look on the minor hockey league side here, it's very, very similar. And you talk about parents that are involved within the board while their kids are involved, and then when their kids leave, then they just pop smoke and they're gone too. And then now it's somebody that's taking over. And unfortunately here there's not that expertise. So there's the mistakes are continually made over and over again, and ultimately it's the kids that end up getting the brunt of the mistakes that are made.
You're muted, Wally.
What are the kids' needs that aren't being fulfilled?
Well, you're talking about the minor hockey league kids? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking what you're going through in your location, which would be minor hockey out here or AAA hockey out here. What are the needs that aren't being fulfilled?
Yeah. Well, part of it is that everybody's a free agent every year. So, if your kid's not, and so part of it is that there's this fear of missing out from all the parties involved. So, kids will be a part of a organization, and then they'll go to their tournaments and they'll do their, whatever they have. And then, somebody will, and I guess what it comes down to is parents not being educated and not having somebody to be able to say, hey, listen, you don't need to go, you don't need to be, running power plays and penalty kills at 11U to have a good program. And so, but they don't know what a good program looks like. And so without having the expertise there, so then it ends up being parents, all they're trying to do is trying to get their kids playing with the best players, and they have the freedom to do that because every year it doesn't matter where you live, you can go. Like there's literally people that will drive by 2 or 3 rinks to be able to bring their kid to another program where they figure that the 2 and 3 best kids are going to play, just because and so that's what they end up doing. And so a little bit is just not having the individual to be able to give the parents confidence and be like, listen, we've got this development program, or we have this, in our mind, everybody's going to play, everybody's going to develop, everybody's going to mature. And then when they get to this age, when they get to 15, 16 or whatever else have you, then you can make some decisions. But there's there's people that are potentially trying to give that message, but whether they're not qualified or people figure that they know better, and so it's just the kids end up being the ones that really suffer, because then they end up moving around. They're not staying with the same club. They're the coach isn't good enough. The players they're playing with aren't good enough. It ends up being, ultimately it really comes down to is the money, right? So then you have the clubs, like for instance, we don't have tryouts until June, but there's literally clubs that are trying to get their ducks in a line in April. Like the season literally just ended, and now they're trying to recruit and trying to make promises, and it's a mess. It really is a mess. And so I guess when you ask what do the kids need, they need somebody that has the knowledge to say, listen, this is if your kid stays within this program, they'll get what they need from a standpoint of skill development, from a standpoint of social development within the group, and you like have confidence in that we're doing the right thing. And I guess that's ultimately what they don't have, so that it ends up just being, a migration from club to club, depending on who has the best sales pitch for that particular that particular year, or yeah.
Thanks very much, Dominic. You really said it pretty well. I like what you mentioned about doing what's right in terms of skill development socially. I don't know if Daryl's able to talk or not, but Daryl, you were on with us a while ago, and you've been through the minor hockey coaching experience, and now you're at the very top. I wonder if you have anything to add about the system coming up the ladder in terms of where these players are going to end up, many of them not at the highest level, but obviously at the AA and AAA levels, you want to get them scholarships or playing junior hockey, and many of them will play pro down the road. So, Daryl, if you're available, have you got any comments? Okay, Tom Malloy, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just think that I've had experience at various places. Like in Europe, it's a club system, as Dom knows, and Johanny and I set up the program for Austria, and they brought us to Vienna 3 summers, and the club coaches would come, and we had a curriculum like a school. You start at somewhere and you go to somewhere. And we created a curriculum, that they can add to, but, so these are the fundamentals: skating, puck handling, et cetera, team play. And that's one aspect. Summer hockey here, spring hockey, is very similar to it is in the United States. It's kind of like a Wild West after the players and that kind of thing, where our organized hockey during the hockey season is like Little League Baseball. You have to play in your area. Like in Calgary, I live in Trails West. Kids have to play in Trails West, and they have different levels. And then we're in the Royals quadrant, which is 1/4 of the city, which is about 400,000 people. And, you have to play there. And then they make some adaptations for kids that get cut or whatever. They can try out at one other organization, if they get cut, and this sort of thing. And I just talked to one of my friends that I coached in Salzburg with, Gene Riley. He just came home from Russia like 2 days ago. So he gave me a call, and they're in the club system. But he said that the biggest problem there is guys want to be the head guys because they make more money, in the club system. So it's hard to get something consistent going there, because all of a sudden the top guy, like, he's the skills coach for their whole organization and tries to do stuff there. So just trying to say every place has its own unique, organization and the problems, and like that part where you guys got to deal with that kids can travel wherever they want, and then a sales pitch to get them to go somewhere else, and that I know I experienced that with this 85ers group. It's, that's guys like Mason and Jeremy and those kind of guys, and they ended up in the NHL. But I mean, the parents, we lost 1 game a year for 2 years, and the parents were mad because we lost this 1 game, and Harold Sneps's team beat us in the championship thing in Vancouver 2 years in a row, and and they were upset about that. So really hard to keep people happy, that's for sure.
Okay, I was really glad we had the conversation, because I'm thinking of taking on this mentorship role, and Mike Manelli, I'm really reluctant. It sounds like I'm reluctant because I've just been burnt so many times. I've sort of reached the end of my rope in terms of trying to do something that's going to make a difference anymore because the wheel just keeps spinning. So I think I've put together an application, and in my application, which maybe isn't a good sales pitch, I talk about the coaches answering some questions about why are they coaching, what would the players say about them, and it leads to them becoming aware of how they're coaching. And I don't even know if I'll get to the point where I would do the questionnaire, but that's what I did mention to the president. That's the first thing I would want to do before I took the position on, is to see what if they would respond. And if they did, I would follow up with, in a fashion that Tom, you brought up, is beginning to ask questions. You've made them think by asking them the question about why they're coaching and how they're coaching and how they perceive it and how the kids might perceive it. And then from there, at some point, I'm hoping to do the mission statement exercise, but I don't know whether that would even come off because that's a top-down thing, Tom. And you've got your covenant, you've done your thing, and everybody's got the code of conduct that they follow that they're given by Hockey Canada, and nothing really seems to work because it all gets disjointed. So I'm really at my wit's end here. But hang in there. You're most of you are much younger, and Dom, you're in the trenches big time. I hope things are turning the corner for you at your school. I feel a school setting, having coaches, Tom did for many years in school settings. There's a degree of stability there, but it's not like a private program within a school. It's a little bit different, but I think the ethical nature of why you're coaching, your school would want to emulate that and support you in that regard, doing the right thing at the right time and just treating the kids the right way. So anybody else got any thoughts? Michael Bonelli? And it's just the same problem in many different ways all over the world, I'm sure. Well, Dom, I got a question here. Are you following the American League team anymore? What happened there? I don't see them in the playoffs anymore. Are they done? Stockton?
Sorry, we've got announcements here, but yeah, no, they've got a bye in the first round, so they're in it, but they got a bye.
Okay. Are you still following the Flames a little bit?
Yeah, my apologies for the announcement. They're almost over. Yeah, I have been. I followed their first game. I didn't watch all of it, but what I did watch, they definitely, yeah, they're playing to their identity and they're playing hard to play against, and obviously they're not giving up a lot. It's quite the contrast to Edmonton. And I'd be excited to see them both play against one another. But, from my side, you can see, just if you just look on the power play, and they did it yesterday a little bit, but like the Edmonton guys will stay the full 2 minutes on the power play. Whereas in the Calgary guys, they'll switch them after a minute for the most part, right? To me, that makes a big difference.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been watching Toronto. The fact they won the first game the way they did, I didn't watch the whole game last night. I had to go and see my granddaughter play soccer. But when I got back, I checked the score, and Tampa Bay ended up winning the second game. And I just find it really intriguing, Dom. Like you said, teams playing to their identity and each having a style of play and who's going to come out on top, because in the end, that's how you're evaluated and you're judged. And boy, just to get into the playoffs is a huge, at that league, the parity is just incredible. So I'm still curious about the degree of the center structure of play and the degree of freedom of play that how free can you get them to play in terms of offensive focus, and that's what I'm watching over the course of these playoffs now is ultimately who's going to last the longest and head out top, because that's the ultimate test at that level.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, as I say, just the way, yeah, I mean, and it just, I mean, and again, I'm comparing Edmonton to Calgary, and maybe not a fair comparison. Obviously, the personnel is different, but it's just when I watch Edmonton play, it's loose, right? And I know Woodcroft's a great coach. I mean, we coached against him in the minors, and he brought that. I mean, they were very structured, and now the minors is a different animal compared to the NHL, just with the higher end skill level. But and I can see him trying to get other guys more involved. Even in the second game, they were, there was an instance, as I mentioned, the power play where they had their minute and then they took them off. Whereas in game one, they played the full 2 minutes. But it's just in the way, they're just the way that Calgary checks. And I think you talk about, the way that the creativity. I mean, Johnny Tkachuk and Lindholm, I mean, they have all the creativity that they want. I mean, they can, they're throwing pucks behind their backs, and that's great. But there's an expectation of checking, and there's an expectation of being on the right side of people and working immediately right after puck possession is lost to work above players and to be on top of players. And, you see that collectively from the Flames is that they, and again, I'm sure that the coaching staff in Edmonton is preaching the same. I would be shocked if they weren't, but there's just, it just, from my side, the collectiveness of how they check as a group just makes it stifling. I mean, they had 1-0 game, and I watched, and they were, and the guys are engaged. Like, Rasmus Anderson's always been a competitive guy. We had him in the minors, and he was always uber competitive. But the way that he's competitive now, and the way that, like, he went right after was it Klingberg? He went after him, and they ended up getting kicked out. He ended up getting kicked out. But there's just a sense of focus, and there's a sense, and you can just see it within and again, that's Darryl, having everybody dialed in to the nth degree. But I mean, they're impressive to watch. I mean, it's, I just say, like, you see them, and it's, they're playing the way that you need. In my opinion, they're playing the way that you need to play to win the games 1-0, which they did. But yeah, it's quite the contrast seeing, and again, obviously the Edmonton, the two big guys in Edmonton. I mean, they're, they've got more skill than anyone. But it's them getting them to play the way that's going to enable them to win. Like, it's, it'll be interesting. It's interesting theater. It's interesting to watch.
I'm going to the game tonight again, so it'll be fun.
I have had a concern before the playoffs, and it's playing out now, and that is they appear to have addressed the physicality by calling quite a bit, and they've sort of drawn the line of what could happen and how much hitting will be allowed relative to the way it's played. And so I'm just curious to what degree fighting is actually going to happen. And when you have non-fighters pair off and go at it, they're being very competitive, but that's definitely not what they're there for. I'd hate to see somebody break a hand, but I'm just wondering to what degree are officials controlling the outcomes by calling too much?
Wasn't as bad last night. game one, they were calling all the marginal stuff. It was more like basketball, just specialty team games. I thought last night was quite a bit better.
Did any of you watch Toronto and Tampa?
I watched about half of it. I was flipping between games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
I watched a little bit of it. I saw the last little bit when they kind of mounted a little bit of a comeback there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I mean they you know, and you can see, and again, I don't watch a lot of Toronto. I mean, but you know, you can see the, you know, like Matthews was trying to get involved. You could see him trying to win loose puck battles. You could see, you know, it was. I mean, you can definitely there's definitely a, you know, a more conscious effort of those smaller battles and details. It's just you need to play that way consistently. Like you have to play that way consistently for over the course of time. And again, I shouldn't actually probably even comment on it because I haven't watched that closely in the regular season just to see how exactly that he was playing. But it stood out to me yesterday. There was a couple instances where and again, he was, from my perspective, he was a little more like this. There was more second effort. There was more doggedness on the puck, and there was, you know, a little more desperation, I guess, a little more desperation in his play. I mean, they ended up losing, but there was desperation when he was when there was puck retrievals, as you know. So I mean, again, but you have to. I mean, that's the reason why, you know, it takes a while for teams to learn how to play and learn how to win, because you have to play that way consistently over the course of time, and then it just escalates and manifests itself in the playoffs. And so you've played that way the whole way along. It's not just a switch that's flicked. But I mean, you know, I think there was more desperation from certain players that I hadn't noticed in the past from Toronto. I mean, it ended up not working out for him yesterday, but it was noticeable.
Yeah, I only watched the first period. I thought they appeared to dominate offensively. They were on the pucks, and relative to what I know they do offensively, they sort of go beyond what most other teams do with the puck, especially their top unit. And 5-on-5, they were really good and dominating. And I had to go and watch the soccer after the first period, so when I got back, I was able to check the score sheet. So I hadn't seen the game, but I agree with you, Dom. The art of coaching is the balance between the buy-in of playing the game, the whole, you know, the 200-foot game by everybody, including the best players. And I think Toronto's doing a hell of a job that way. I'm really glad they got Giordano. He gives them the depth and the kind of player that every team would love to have in their end. And to me, it's a crapshoot on the number of teams that are in the playoffs. They're all damn good. Like Dallas, even though Calgary dominated in the first game, Dallas could have won the game. I mean, you got a post here, a post there. And so you just can't get too upset about the outcome when the chance of a puck hitting a stick and angling into and being scored, like it was incredible. It's incredible hockey. We're just fortunate to be able to watch it, and I think the players are playing the right way. I don't think, Don, they're playing like they did back in your day, where you had to keep your head in the swivel to be to stay alive out there. The physicality of the game, they haven't crossed that line. That's what I was worried about in the playoffs here, is they define the line through officiating. Players will fall into it. And like Tom said, and your assessment was right, there were too many power plays, but at least it was consistent, and they've drawn the line, and maybe they'll ease up now, and maybe they'll tighten up when they have to if the need arises. But I think they've done a hell of a job with that league and the parity. So, Tim, are you watching the NHL down there like we do in Canada with your team?
Yes.
Do your kids do the same?
Yeah, I think I don't know about the playoffs since the local team's not in it, but as far as the kids are concerned, yeah, there's more hockey on than I have time to watch. I watch some of it live and put some on the DVR, but with the idea I'll get back and watch some of it. But there's a lot of hockey right now.
Mike, are you following the playoffs at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm in full season lacrosse here now, so it's been going crazy. But yeah, at night I'll watch. My son's a crazy Ranger fan, and then I have the other probably by the just virtue that he's a Ranger fan, I have a crazy diehard Pittsburgh Penguin fan in the house. So we're having some good battles here. It was a fun evening the other night. My little guy, my 8-year-old, he couldn't stay up for the triple overtime, so he went to bed when it was tied up, and so he was pretty happy in the morning when he woke up. But yeah, so I mean, I happen to love watching Toronto play. I was really disappointed. I go out of my way to kind of watch them play, but I was disappointed to see last night. But those are two pretty good talented teams out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's fun to see. I like as long as these games go for extended period of times. I enjoy watching them all.
I think there's going to be a lot of 7-game series.
Now, let's hope.
Yeah. Well, listen, I talked to Ken Babby. It looks like the 19th of May is he and Billy Bridges might get on together, but we're not sure. And I mentioned to Ken, well, I'd love to have him on because he could talk about his journey, and he may be transitioning and moving and possibly coaching another sledge hockey team in the world. But this guy has coached for years at the college level and made the transition to sledge hockey, and the kind of unpredictable, the inability to predict what's going to happen in terms of security from year to year or Olympics to Olympics. Thomas Pacina experimented that in the Czech Republic with having a great performance, but not coming back and being able to continue to do what he did. So they're all at the whims of final results. So I'm curious to see how things will pan out. I believe that every NHL coach that's still in the playoffs is probably going to keep their job, win or lose, even Daryl Sutter, because they've played so damn well. And I think they played to their identity. Like you say, I got a question, Dom. That first line of Calgary's, can they sustain that over the course of the whole playoffs?
I mean, just my opinion. I mean, I didn't look at the numbers and how much they played, but we've talked about it on this before. It's just managing minutes, and I think they've, from my perspective, they play their 4 lines. I mean, obviously the first line plays more than the fourth line, but I mean, look at LA, right? Like, look at Deneau and Kopitar. They're playing 25, 26 minutes as a forward. Like, it's just not sustainable. So, Calgary has those guys playing. Again, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm assuming that they're probably around, 16 to 18 minutes. To me, if you play those guys in that amount of minutes, like that's sustainable. You're playing every second day. You're able to, you're not overtaxing themselves. I remember being there when they played Colorado, and in 5 games, like, they had Lindholm on the ice all the time, and it just wasn't sustainable. There wasn't enough. The tank was empty. So, I think I think if they play them and they manage them like they have been, and they've been playing the lines which they have, I mean, I think they can. I mean, it's always it's always interesting, and we'll see once, the initial, the initial, how the officials are initially refereeing it with all the penalties. I mean, that will probably subside, and then it'll get probably a little more physical and a little more draining. So we'll see how Johnny's able to manage that. The other two guys, I think, can handle it, but we'll see how Johnny can, once it gets into second and third rounds, if, the pounding that you take, we'll see how that plays out. But the way that he's coached and the way that he's managed them up to this point, I think they can. I mean, I think they can. I mean, I think it's, it's feasible. And I mean, there's a reason why he's won twice. He won twice in LA, and how they've managed to this point. And I think he does a really good job at managing them and not overplaying those guys.
You made the point on Kopitar's line. I wasn't aware they were getting that much more ice time. Was that the case last night?
I'm going to look right now so I don't speak out of school, just in regards to looking at how many minutes they played. So, it was a little bit better last night. They had them at 20 minutes. I mean, that's a lot for a forward, though. I mean, for a centerman, I mean, that's a lot.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
the game prior to that, they had him 25. I think it was Kopitar was close to 26 minutes, and I think Deneau was 23 or something like that. Like, that's, as a centerman, like, you're taking all those important faceoffs, and I get it. Like, those draws are important, but that ends up being that compounds to the point where, you get to the point where there's nothing left. So, and it looks like they managed it a little bit better. They spread it out a little bit more. I mean, in the first game, Brendan Lemieux played 2 minutes. He played 8.5 last night. So, I mean, that's more manageable from my side of things. Like in contrast, if you look at with Calgary, like Tkachuk played 16.5 minutes, right? Like that's sustainable. I mean, Lindholm did play 20. Johnny played 18, but Backlund played 18, so that they have it spread out, right? I mean, they had the lowest amount of minutes. So Lucic played 10 minutes, and Brad Ritchie played like 7.5. But other than that, everybody played. They had it spread out a little bit, right? I mean, that's the way that you're going to be able to be sustainable and to go long into the playoffs. And some teams don't have the luxury of that. Like Byfield in LA, I mean, he's a young kid. I mean, you saw it. He took a penalty. I think he took a penalty in the first game on Draisaitl driving through the seam. I mean, it's just, you can't. And I mean, you look at Edmonton's, like, if Edmonton's put on the power play, I mean, 4 or 5 times. I don't know what they finished last game, but they were at one point they're 3 for 5. So I mean, if you can't put guys on the ice because they're going to take a penalty, that's problematic. So, I think it's just a battle of attrition, and I think Edmonton will if they end up spreading it out a bit, they'll outlast the Kings. But you absolutely have to, it's a fine line between getting your stars out there but giving them enough rest and enough juice to be able to do what they do. Because if they're spent, then they're not going to be able to do the elite things. Then they'll just be like everybody else. And then they'll be able to, they'll be, the second or third and fourth lines will pull them down to their level, and they won't be able to separate and won't be able to have that, that little bit of juice to be able to make the difference. So, but yeah, no, that to me is, it goes back to your thing, Wally, with about playing everybody, right? Like, yeah. You have to play everybody. You have to play everybody. I mean, I've been on championship teams where, I was pissed because they were playing guys as much as they were, but ultimately it ended up us being able the reason why we won the championship. But I mean, it's gonna get ugly at times, and in the NHL, there's pressure every single day. There's pressure. I remember when we played in Edmonton, it felt like we won every single game, and we barely made the playoffs. Like we were winning all the time. But that's the thing. There's a pressure. Like in the regular season, if you lose 2 or 3 in a row, it's the end of the world. And so of course you're going to play your extra guys. If you know Johnny's going to get me an extra couple of goals, if the chances of Johnny Goodrow scoring or of Brett Ritchie scoring, I mean, you're going to put Johnny out there. But in the long term, you're going to need those guys consistently playing to be able to give yourself a chance. And as I say, like, I mean, Daryl knows what he's doing. I mean, obviously, his results speak for themselves.
Mike Benelli.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things, obviously because I get to watch the Rangers a lot because of my son. That I watched the other day, which was really, I think, to Dominic's point, was I think he had like the Reeves line out there, like even in the second, third overtime, on a consistent basis. Like there was no, like it's game one. He knows that, right? The average fan doesn't see that. The average fan says, "Oh no, you got to win today," and Gallant's like, "No, I got to win over the next 4 weeks." Like, so I think that's a great point. Is that you have to find a way not only to play everyone because it's fair, but to play everyone and know how to manage your bench and your star players. And to Dominic's point, so you can get the Goudreaus out there, or in the Rangers' case, the Panarins out there in Game 4 when they need to be, stretched. And I think so many average or just casual fans don't see that. Like, I even hear, you're like, what the hell is he doing out there? Like, why do they have that line out there? Well, you can't have your first line out there especially on some of these games when you have, these 5-minute majors or, back-to-back penalties and the power play units out there. I think it was Daryl Sutter too that said it, right? That it's almost like it was almost too many power plays. Like you'd rather not have all those power plays in a row because you keep putting the same guys out there, and it just doesn't help you in the end. So I love that. I think it's really astute to see these coaches that know how to manage their bench and put everybody in, not only for the fairness or to get everybody to buy in, but to understand they have to manage these professional athletes, because the athlete will go out there every shift. They don't care, right? The athlete will be like, no, I'm ready to go. And you almost have to control that athlete and say, I'm helping you here for the long term. So, but I thought that was great.
I call it the art and science of coaching. The bench management has a scientific, physiological effect, energy. In minor hockey, I am appalled at the degree to which, at the U10 levels and U13 levels and AAA levels, ice time is mismanaged for the outcome. And they ignore the art, the psychology of the player feeling part of the team and playing more. Now, Dominic, you're able to call it the stats, and I'm sure the NHL has them, and I'm not good at accessing them or trying to draw conclusions, but I've always felt the teams that won the Stanley Cup had the most balanced minutes in the playoffs. And I'm curious to see if you ranked the last 4 teams and looked at those minutes. I'm really curious to see if that general theory proves itself out. So, Dom, if you have time at some time to look at that and watch the playoffs as they go on, I'm curious about how's Toronto managing all those minutes, because the effect of that managing has to do with energy, number one, which is the science, and the psychology of coaching and the players feeling valued and part of the team. And I think in Edmonton's case, I think up until Woodcroft, there was a lot of players there that just didn't get any ice time, that couldn't contribute and didn't feel a part of it. And now they've got a bit of a team philosophy going for them. So Dom, do me a favor, and I might call you during the playoffs to remind you of keeping track of that and sorting it out. And if you've got a techie guru out there that could arrange a ranking of the top 4 teams on their minutes managed. I'd really love to see that, but I've always felt I've watched so many city championships at the Pee Wee level and Bantam level where I'm watching the 2 ringers be double shifted every second shift and get totally exhausted for the 3rd period and not win. And I just think that's common sense. That's ridiculously stupid coaching, but that's the way people coach. Shortening the bench is the poorest excuse for coaching that there is. I've had my chance to preach. So, any other thoughts on the playoffs, anybody? Anybody daring to bet yet? And what about betting and the influence of betting? You think that's going to be a problem down the road with
Well, sure
players?
isn't it now?
Well, I don't know. Our players can bet?
I don't know.
Anybody know if players are able to bet?
Well, you'd hope not, but
Well, it's out there, that's for sure.
it's that goalie for Dallas. He's unbelievable. That young kid they got there,
Yeah.
the NCAA. They're he gives them a chance for sure.
Well, I hope they get by Dallas and get to the second round, but anybody other feel there's any dark horses out there?
Washington.
Yeah. Anybody watch that game?
That's the team that Jim picked.
Which game? Sorry.
Washington.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a couple guys I watched. Sam Bennett and Ryan Lomberg are both playing with Florida, so I had some interest in watching that. I mean, there's something to be said for having won before and knowing how to win. Obviously, Florida had a great year, and they have some great tools. But there's, as I said, there's something to be said for, knowing the limits, of what you can get away with, the limits on how things are, need to be played. But it should be a good series. I mean, as I say, like if you look at it on the surface, you would think Florida should be able to, sort of have their way. But it's not the, as I say, it's not the case. I mean, it's Sam Bennett scored again in the playoffs. I mean, he steps up to his game, or maybe it's that he just plays the same way that he would normally play, and it's just it's not a change for him. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I think that'd be an interesting series as well. I mean, Florida has a lot of firepower. They have a lot of talent. They have got good goaltending. You would think on the surface they would have a pretty good team to be able to go away because they have a lot of depth. But does the depth know how to win? That's ultimately what it is. The Brendan Montours and some of these younger defensemen that are skilled and can skate, but are they willing to do the small details to be able to win a close game, right? I mean, it was, that ultimately comes down to be the question is, do they have enough experience and enough composure to be able to stay on the tracks, right?
It's interesting. There was a talk show when I was driving in the afternoon yesterday, exactly about what you said, Dominic. They talked about Washington and the experience that they had. They also mentioned that Washington trapped in the neutral zone. I didn't watch the game close at all to see if that was true, but most of the conversation was related to the experience of the players having been through it before. And I'm hoping for Calgary that experience will have paid off here and get them past the first round at least. So, Mike, your hand's still up. Have you got another?
Yep. No, sorry. I was gonna share my screen and see if this is what you thought, but I have I just pulled up the Instat. Let me see if I can get it. Let me see if I can get it so you guys can see it. Just on Edmonton last night, and I don't know if you're seeing my screen or not yet.
Not yet.
All right, 1 second here. Let me. You can't see that, huh?
No.
I see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, you do? Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So if you see, this is the Instat. This is the Edmonton Oilers last night, right? And I was just interested in like what you're saying, Wally, just about time on ice. You know, obviously, Mike Smith had his 60 minutes, but I think it's pretty. You know, you look at all the D here.
Read them off because I can't see it for some reason.
Oh, you can't? No, it's gonna be too hard to read them off. But I'll share. I could share. But it's if you're looking for statistics like that, I mean, this is the Instat program is a great, great way to just see, find information on where you think players like. So if you had an interest in seeing how much ice, who Connor McDavid had, compared to, who would be a fourth line player on Edmonton. I mean,
Cassian Fogel.
Yeah, so look at Connor McDavid at 16:55 of ice time, and then Fogel had 9 minutes of ice time, and Casson 8 minutes of ice time. So, but you wonder like where they were used the most in relation to when they needed to be on the ice, right? But you look at the rest of the team. I mean, you look at these forwards. Evander Kane 19 minutes. I mean, I don't know how That's a lot more ice time than McDavid.
Yeah.
But maybe in this game, maybe because it was maybe because of the score. But it's just good. I like these are great ways to just read these stats and kind of look at time on ice and how they contribute to the as far as the fairness of the team.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear. I was curious about that, Mike. Thanks for bringing it up because, and Dom, you had mentioned the one player, Lewis, getting 7 minutes, and 8 and 9 were the bottom minutes in the Edmonton part of the roster that last night's game.
Yeah, Fogel and Casson had 9 and 8 respectively.
So I was sort of wondering, Dom, in the NHL, what's the lowest number of minutes? And I think Daryl, 7 minutes surprised me. I thought 9 minutes would be about the lowest. Curious to see how it all ends up and filters in the wash. But what do you do? Just Google Instat?
No, it's a program I own. I use it because I do it for like when I'm working with my kids. When I work with the kids on their development, it's the only way I can get stats for like the BCHL and everything. So it's just a program that I subscribe to.
Okay, I might subscribe to that. That's good.
Yeah, or let me know.
You can get it on NHL.com too, Wally. You can get. I mean, it's not as in depth as the Instat. They do a real good job.
Yeah.
But you can go to NHL.com and you can go to the box score and then go click on the individual scores and go to the teams, and they'll give you, they're really really simple stats, giveaway, takeaways, but they do have the time on ice.
Super. That's good.
Yeah, it's definitely they have a great that resource is unbelievable. It's free too, so it's it really is just being able to see, if you want to just compare statistics, it's a really good program. Instat's a little it's a little crazy because you can go right to a shift and see a player shift, but I don't think that's what you're looking for.
So, Mike, you use that. What age groups do you use that Instat with? Up to what?
Anybody above like any junior hockey, like a couple of kids in the BCHL. So I don't get to see their games, and I don't have time to watch film. So I just say, give me, I just go and say, okay, here's the player I'm working with. I just want to see all his shifts from the last game, and then I can kind of give them the feedback that I see. And most of the time it's most of the time you're watching and you watch somebody else do something like, holy crap, that was actually a great play. Like, so it's, but I just love the ability just to see the kids I need to see and not watch a whole game film.
Yeah. No, they
and it's great for the kids too.
Yeah. What's and because I know I have, like, we use that at the American League level, and I know that they what is the lowest that they kind of in stat as far as the lowest level that
it depends on the organization because they have to pay for it. But I think right down to like the USPHL over here on the East Coast, like any of the obviously the USHL uses it. I can pull up games from any college team right now, any NCAA team. I work with a couple of kids at Brown, and I can pull up their shifts. So any NCAA, BCHL, I roll all the way down to probably USHL, and out here on the East Coast to the USPHL. But under that, it all depends on the team. Like some of the other organizations, like the New Jersey Titans or something like that, they'll put their game, they'll purchase the Instat program for their own organization. So you can, so like if my team's playing them, I don't own it like for my team because it's just my kids, I don't need it. But if I can get it from another team that owns it, I get my statistics too. So I'll use that film.
Yeah. What's the lowest age level in which you coach?
Yeah, right now I coach 6-year-olds, so I coach everything. I'm basically, I go all the way down to physically coaching. I do a lot of work with the NHL, with the Rangers over here with their rookie leagues and learn to play. I get the back-breaking kids, and then I get to play with the big boys.
Yeah. I formulated that question wrong. So what below, let's say the BCHL and the USPHL, you coach like the high school, and right below that, like you coach
I'm doing like 14U is the last team I had, was now will be 15U, so midget minor.
Yeah. So like how many assistants do you have for that team, for instance? Like were you the head and you had assistants on that team?
Yeah, so me, I kind of try to form it as like three staff members with me. That's my ideal situation. I mean, most of the guys I work with are volunteers, so I can't really demand too much out of them. But I kind of tend to like to. And actually, I got this from Tim. I had him on one of my shows with Gino Cavallini, and I like that, the idea of being like on the bench and then having somebody working with the two, the forward and the D, and kind of overseeing that. That's ideally how I like to do it at that level. But most of my guys are volunteers, so.
Yeah. What level of video do you do with those guys, if any?
They see video every day. I'll do a lot of clips. Like I use that Power Player program to send them. I'll probably send them like on average like 6 clips a week. They're all clips, just little, and a lot of times it won't even be of them. It'll just be like a college game, or I actually use a lot of women's game footage because it looks more like them. Like the women's game, like that I see, looks more like our 14U game, than a pro game. I mean, you can't show Connor McDavid video. It's just these guys are freaks.
No,
like they're just doing things that normal people just don't do.
Yeah. What kind of clips are you showing them?
Just little things like where a player positions themselves, or like center lane drives, or how somebody takes a 2-on-1 and plays that. Like I'm not a fan. I hate people leaving their feet on D. I hate it. I don't like I don't like when I hear. I'm just not a fan of like you leaving a goalie out to dry. Like little things like that I think the kids can see in video, because these kids live in video, right? They're immersed in video all day.
I'm just trying to because obviously I get our video, and then they have like Huddle has this. It's called Huddle Assist.
Yeah, that's great.
Send it in, and they'll send it back to you. But I mean, they send back, and the thing is, what they'll send back is shots, block shots, goals, assists. I mean, it doesn't. So from a standpoint of what to really show, like it's tough. I'm just looking at it from a time management side of things, to what to be able to get it out to kids, right? Because I mean, hey, I can cut down a video like I did when I was pro, but it takes me 3 hours to do. So that's not feasible, right? So it's
and the
I'm
kids
just
won't
trying to.
they won't watch it either. It's
No.
too much. Like, my kids, I just give them like literally it's like 3 or 4 15-second clips, and it's just something that they can digest, and I can have a conversation with them about. And most of the time it's generalized. Like it's really hard with the kids I work with to just pinpoint one kid. Like that's hard because it's nobody else. I just don't have the time. If the kids I work with individually, I'll do that. But I think for, when you're working with a team, like I'm sure like a guy like Daryl Belfry can do that because he's focused on one individual player. I can't do that. I have 15 kids and I have to be very general. Like, okay, if we're playing D, this is what we should look like. If we're driving the net, this is what it should look like. Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have a database of clips that you have that you'll just show clips to, like, because you're obviously you have to put in that work at some point, but it's not like, so you'll have clips like categorized as like, line rush or defensive zone or whatever or offensive zone, and then you'll just have a database that you'll give them clips, or will you have something that happens in the game and you're like, oh geez, we need to have this, and go look at them at that point? Like, what's your process there?
My process right now, the last 2 years, because of the time constraints, is it's a la carte. Like I'll see something we did in the game, and then I'll see something, I go, oh, I got that actually happened yesterday. Like, so if I'm watching a college game, my process is literally I save it on my phone. I go to quote unquote Coach's Eye. I don't know if you've ever seen Coach's Eye, but I just I'm on my phone. I show the video. I talk. I telestrate 15 seconds, and I text it out. Nothing crazy. Nothing. I don't. I don't need any screen. Nothing fancy. There's no music or anything. Just very simple.
No music.
So you screen cap. So you screen capture
mine don't look as good
as
Tom Malloy's. His actually look really good, but mine are very simple. Mine are just like, here's a 15 seconds of, like, I'll steal like if Dominic, if you posted something on Twitter, I'll just screen grab that and I'll just say, hey, this is something I really like that you guys should look at, and then I'll send it to him. And just for that, just to kind of, I just try to get in the habit of sending good habits. Like, just this is actually this is a great thing, great habit. Look at this, and just more, because I don't think enough of our kids in my world that I'm in, I don't think a lot of them watch hockey to watch hockey. I think they watch hockey to see, like, oh my God, look at that big hit, but they don't watch hockey to say, wow, did you see how that player got to that place? Like, how did they get there? And they don't know that. They don't see that.
Yeah. I see it. I laugh because anytime someone gets the puck behind the net, what are they screaming? What do your kids scream when you get a kid behind the net with the puck? What are they screaming?
Yeah, they're just Michigan.
Michigan. I hear that all the time. And I just
fancy.
I chuckle to myself because it's the thing that they'll hear. And it doesn't matter if they're 12 years old or if they're 18 years old. They're yelling Michigan, and they want somebody to try it, right? Like, it's just, but
that will evolve too, right? Goalies will learn that they can't be laying on a knee. That'll evolve. I actually love it. I love the fact that we're thinking, like, I think there's like anything else in the game, right? It'll evolve to where now players have to play differently and defensemen have to defend differently. And but you're absolutely right. They see it on Instagram. And it's like, that's the only thing they can think about doing in their head.
Yeah, I know. That's because but you're right though, as far as the small other habits that aren't going to be on Instagram. I'm just trying to figure out what the best way is to be able to manage that and be able to send it off to them just without spending too much time like looking for it. That's the thing, right? Because
I have that's helping me as a coach, and I'll tell you, he's the best. Like, he'll send me clips from NHL.com, and like, hey, we did this last night, and I have parents that are they'll send me the clip. Like, they don't have to teach it, they just have to understand what I was looking for. They're like, hey, you were just talking about this in practice. Did you see this? and I'll take it and I'll say, hey, Coach Koo found this clip. Why don't you guys look at it? Simple as that.
Yeah.
And I love video. I wish it was easier to do. I mean, I wish I was more, I wish I was more nimble at finding clips, saving them, classifying them. I wish I was as disciplined with clips as I am with my practice plans. Like my practice plans, I'm very disciplined and regimented, and I could go back to 4 weeks ago and get my lesson plan. I'm not that great with the clip because it does take it takes so much. Like you have to have a computer that can do all that and store all that information.
Can handle it. Yeah. It can handle all of it.
All day is delete clips off my phone because my phone's always clogging up. Sorry, Wally, for taking the time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I got a question related to this. I believe is it Power Play, the program where the coaches are providing constant feedback to the parents and players?
That's the one I use. Yeah.
Yeah, Dominic, that's if I was to advocate anything, because it deals with the behavioral side of coaching and the accountability side, and the fact that a coach is taking the time to report back to the kids and the parents about how the kids are practicing and playing. I think that's the biggest effect, at least when I heard their presentation. The impact it has is on the buy-in from parents. Can you comment on it in a way that, Mike, that might further reinforce that importance of that?
Yeah, so I think at the youth level and all the way up to high school, I've used it into high school level as well. I think because the parents are so intertwined with the player, that if you're not educating the parent with the player, this is where you get these chasms in trying to teach. So I've used the Power Player guys as a vehicle for me to communicate to the kids, but I'm really communicating to the parents, right? I'm sending like, hey, Michael, I really liked the way you played yesterday. I thought you did this well. And, these are the kind of things we need to look at next time. I can send that to him privately, but I know it's going to him privately because the way they have it set up, though, it goes to the mom and dad as well. So I'm communicating to the parent and the player, and it's not a two-way communication tool. It's not like, Snapchat or something. It just goes to them. Yeah. And then I ask them, there's a like button, and all I do is ask them to like it just so I know they read it. And okay, just let me know you opened it up and you saw the video or you saw the comment. And then what Power Player does is it allows me also the kids get, we do like physical fitness testing, and they don't see who the other kids are, but they see where they're at within the rest of the team. So they'll say, I'm in the top 10%. Like, oh, you don't play me but I'm the fastest kid. I go, well, according to every statistic we have, you're the slowest kid. Or, this is where your game can improve. But it doesn't allow you to see the other kids' scores. It just allows you to know what your aggregate score is within the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really works out pretty well.
So what's the cost of that?
So they have it it's pretty cheap now. It's like $19 a year per player or something like that. And again, if you use it like the way I use it, they're getting feedback. It's almost like I don't know if you guys use this, Dominic, school. There's a program called Class Dojo. And so Class Dojo in the U.S. is like
Schoology or whatever.
Yeah, it's like, the teachers could put comments in there all the time and the parents see where their kid is all the time. Like, oh, my son, like I hate it actually because my little guy, my third grader, like they got Class Dojo and I find out, oh, Arthur was in line, did a good job standing in line today or something. Like, I don't give a crap about all this. This is crazy. Like, it's like to me, it's like, why don't you teach? You don't have time to be on your iPad telling me how my kid's behaving in class every day. But so I compare Power Player as like the Class Dojo. It's a way for me once a week or twice a week to go in, and it's all toggles. So it's not like you have to do a lot of it's not like a time consuming program. I can toggle the kid between like 70 and 90% is kind of my window. So I'll say, okay, here's how you performed in the game yesterday. And you can see, oh, I'm 90% or I'm 70% compared to the rest of the kids on my team.
Yeah.
And it just gives them an idea of, saying, hey, this is what, because, and I don't mean to be harsh to most parents, but I'm like, well, I don't care what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. It only matters what I think. Even if I'm wrong, it only, like, you can't, like, I want to hear your comments, but at the end of the day, the only thing that affects your child's position with me is how I think about your kid. Like, what my perception is, whether it's right or wrong, it's my perception. And I'm telling you what I think. I know what you think, but and then now you can help. And I try to do this with my own kids. Like, if I know what the coach thinks of you, then I know how to coach you to be the best player for the coach. And if I don't think your effort's there, then there's a conversation you can have with me about how you think your effort's there. I can say, well, I don't think your effort's there. Okay, then tell me how. Let's collaborate on how we're going to get your effort there, or how we're going to get to a point where now your output and how I think your output is the same. Yeah. And
so, so you control that. Like, your assistants won't have anything to do. You basically control that power player. So your assistants, they pretty much just facilitate during the game, the defense and the forwards, and then in practice, I'm assuming they're helping to manage parts of the ice. But as far as the power player and the feedback, you basically run that feedback. You're not having them doing any of that.
Well, so we have a goalie program. Like, we have a goalie staff that does, like, goalies for our programs. So I give them access to the goalies. So they send video, and they can send feedback to the goalies on their own. And then you can designate other members of the staff. I don't in particular with the last couple of teams, because I've had my staff is other parents.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I don't think it's fair to them to be critiquing the other kids. So I tend not to. But you can give as many assistant coaches, or like I give access to one of the young guys that does our mental toughness training, we call it. But he does like his little alert once a week about how the kids can have some mindfulness and how they can have better mental, preparation for games. And he'll have access, because he'll be able to say, hey, this is a great thing that you can do as a player to prepare for your games tomorrow. And then it's not always just coming from me.
Yeah.
You give as much access or as little access to other staff members as you want.
Yeah.
And then I use it organizationally. Like, when I start working with other new organizations that have 10 or 12 teams, we put all the coaches on the power player to use as a communication device. And then I can go back in there and say, hey, your 12U coaches haven't never once did an outreach to your parents and kids. And it, in my opinion, it directly correlates to how that team's doing. No communication. I guarantee that team's not a happy team. Now, and we just do it because it's the only way to really monitor it. Now, a coach could come back to me and say, no, I email the parents and I talk to everybody after games and practices. Okay, well, let's see how your team's doing then. And most of the time, if they're not, just on these calls every single week, if you're not communicating to your kids and your players and your parents, then most likely you're failing. And it's hard. It's if you just, I use the example all the time. I used to be, when I first started coaching as a young coach, I'd be like, I'm Mike Benelli. Congratulations, you made the team. See you at the banquet. Like, don't ever call me. Don't come to me. And I think that's, obviously that's, you just can't coach that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and I actually
agree with that.
I actually think this, and Wally, you might be able to speak to it just based off the conversations you've had with Dave and Steve and the guys at the power player. But I think it actually opens up more communication, because I think it allows some stuff not to fester. It allows you to say what you need to say, and then there's no ambiguity to how you're thinking. Like, this is direct. Like, Michael, I think you struggled last night, and maybe it was because of this, this, and this. All right, great. Now I know. But it also then allows a parent to approach you with something like a tangible question. Like, Michael told me that you really thought he was struggling with the decisions he was making at the blue line. Oh yeah, I was. well, what are those? What is he struggling with? Now you can have a real conversation with that parent.
Right.
You know, as opposed to, you know, all these just vague, like, oh, he's just got to work harder. Oh, he's just got to, you know.
He's
got to you know, I'm like, well, what the hell is that?
Blanket statement. I had a parent, they went to a Wenatchee. It's a BCHL team. They had camp, and then they had feedback, and the feedback was, you're got to improve your skating. And I said, well, did they give you any further feedback? And they're like, no, they just said that I had to improve my skating. I'm like, well, okay. So it's like, yeah, I mean, so anyways, Wally, had your hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Wally. Sorry.
Yeah, my question was, as soon as I did that program, and I just had the thoughts now, I began by talking about I've made an application for a mentorship contract for 3 U13 teams in a AA, AAA association. Well, to tell you the truth, and Tom Malloy might agree with this, I'm going to call the president and say, you should program this. It'll teach the coaches to be engaged and communicate with parents better. So how did you get hooked, and were you able to get your parents or your association to afford to purchase it? Because it really isn't that expensive in terms of the value that you get out of it by involving the coach in some objective data and communication. So I'm going to pitch this moving forward, pull myself out of the mentorship application, but I would be a supportive player of this with this association. And the 3 U13 teams would be the youngest age division that haven't been corrupted by the system of shortening the bench yet, and managing the bench properly. And we've talked about this at the NHL level, but the idea of communicating with parents and respecting and appreciating the effort coaches put in. So, Mike, if you've got any ideas, like, how did you sell it? How did you get it started? Because, you know, $20 a player is like, it's 400 a team.
And yeah, which down here, like a half an hour of ice. So, like, to me, it all depends on where you're at, right? But I mean, for me, it's the investment you make in each kid, and for $20 a kid for a season. Now, it all depends. If you like, so one of the ways I help organizations is when they buy the system, I say that no matter what happens, I'm going to be in the role as administrator, and I'm going to send something out every week, like from me. Yeah. Like, there's going to be whether it's a motivational quote, whether it's a point to the players, whether it might be something stupid like for the little guys, I always put out like my guide to knowing when to sharpen your skates, kind of thing, like things that parents just don't know. Yeah. Or, you know, how the stick buying guide, or maybe there's a video from Tim Turk, or so I can manage and start to train. Down here, I use the example. You guys might in Canada, you probably have coffee shops in every rink, but down here, you go to a rink at 7 o'clock in the morning. The snack bar's never open. There's no coffee, and you're like, I'm dying here. So what do parents do? They all go to Dunkin' Donuts. No Tim Hortons, unfortunately, down here, but they all go to Dunkin' Donuts. They bring their coffee into the building, and then the snack bar people wonder why nobody is ever buying coffee, because there's no expectation that there'd be coffee there. Like, well, I always bring coffee to a rink because most of the time it's like it's like McDonald's ice cream machines. Like, they're just not going to be, it's not going to be working, right? So I do the same thing with the power player. I'm like, listen, if I start to train your parents and your kids that there's going to be information in there for you, then it's a lot easier for the coaches to now start injecting information, because it's almost expected. It's something where if I can give them like some real generic things that they can send out, so they don't have to do a lot of work, because I think it's very intimidating for coaches sometimes, is that, here, I'm giving you the information, you're just going to send it out as yours, and It might just be a little tiny thing like, hey, these are great tips for being a great defenseman, or here's some tips on pregame meals or whatever. And then it actually snowballs. You'll see it's almost, one of those things where as you communicate a little, it gets very contagious and you end up, people want more and you want to give more.
Yeah, I like that because I wouldn't withdraw myself. I would be the catalyst to seeing it work.
Yeah, you're the driver of that
Yeah.
change. You're the one that says, listen, you're hiring me for my intellectual property. The only way for me to get that intellectual property out to the mass of your players is for me to send it out.
Yeah.
And then the coaches then to pile on.
Yeah. One of the things that I was curious about, Mike, with that system, they had a lot of skill tests and measurement of things, which coaches don't like to do. They take time. And I've always advocated the time measuring those skill tests is time preventing you from developing them. How important is that when they're practicing 3 times a week or 2 times a week, playing 2 games a week? How feasible is it? Do they follow those testing guidelines? They're a key part of the feedback. I love the feedback on behavioral qualities, the input on the players, the tracking by the coach of their commitment, their hard work, and that kind of thing. But how much of it is spent on by the coach on having to test?
Yeah, so it all depends on the organization. I personally don't use any of the metric testing at all. It's just too time consuming. Like I don't do, I don't do all the drills. Like now some organizations that I start with will do 3 combines a year, and we'll use that piece of the software. So we'll have a combine preseason. We'll have like a holiday combine, then an end of the year combine, and all that is to show progress. Now, some organizations don't like using it because their kids don't progress. So who wants to show a kid that he's not getting faster, right? So a lot of people get a little intimidated by it. But I don't use, I don't know. It's just very time consuming, and I don't find a lot of value in my time to run those tests. They do, it's a great feature for if you're doing combine type stuff or doing like sit-ups, push-ups, 50-yard dashes, whatever it is. I use it purely for the communication tool and the feedback.
Okay. No, I agree with you. I think that's the only thing I would use it for communication.
Yeah, and it just and it just beats. Like I like the fact that it's not you can send it just to the defenseman. You could send something just to the goalies. You could send something just to one player that nobody else sees. It's just you and the player and the parent. And there's no and I think that, and to me, as I get, to going back to Dominic asking about the time, sometimes I will see something like one clip of a player, or a lot of parents will send me clips, especially at the Bantam level, like at the kids 14U, when checking started coming and they get a penalty and the parent like, that's not a penalty. I'm like, it is a penalty. So the parent will, they'll go right to Live Barn. They'll send me the clip, explain to me why this is a penalty. And now I get to really give them real feedback. I'm like, okay. I download, I have the film. Thank you for doing all that work. I'm not going to go look for it. And then I'll tell you, this is what the ref saw, what I saw, and this is the actual, thanks, Tim. And this is the actual penalty, and this is why it was called. And then we can educate the parent and the player. And I think that's how I use the system.
Well, I'll tell you what, the idea I've got here, Tom, with the Royals, I know they pay a monthly fee, and I would offer reducing that fee by $100 a month over the course of the 5 or 6 month season to pay for the cost of power play for them. I think that just getting them to use it is huge. And I know having them pay for it outright, but as a part of the package, that basically I would be financing. And I think to me, that's is exactly what Tom talked about. It's not that the coaches can still ask you for stuff and you can send them information, but it's what they do with what they've got and how they apply it. This is a tool that causes them to have to communicate. And
yeah, so Wally, I use that term with my organizations. I call it proactive communication. Like, I'm going to help you learn how to communicate by proactively sending information out there that you then can respond to. Like, I think most coaches aren't good at that piece. Like, they think it's time consuming and it clogs up their day. They all want to work on the power play, but nobody wants to work on communicating to their athletes. And to me, especially at that 13-year-old age group, it's really communicating to the kids' managers, right? Their parents, the ones that are with them, the other 22 hours out of the day. And that's
What's it called again?
The power player. Or power player. I'm not sure if it's the power player or a power player, but it's basically, I know Wally had met with that group. But I think you could, like, again, once you get them into it and you start sending them information, then it's much easier for the coaches to jump on board and send out their own information.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a favor. The president of this association, I mentored him. He's my age, but I mentored him coaching a minor midget AAA team years ago. And he's now president of the association. I've done the mission statement exercise with him and 4 of the board members. And I have to say it was a waste of time because they did it as a small group. And of the 4 people, 2 of them really bought into it. And the association functioned as usual. Not bad, but the same. Spinning their tires, not behaviorally coaching with the kids in terms of earning ice time and developing good behaviors and attitudes on the ice in a practice. They just created entitled players by letting the best players play more often and exhibit bad behaviors on the ice. So would you be willing, if I got the president to contact you, to talk to him about it and how it works and how you use it, and you would advise me about using it? Because I think the model, I don't like the skill testing. It's too time consuming.
Yeah.
And I think I'm looking at 3 teams this year. And after that, I don't know how many more teams there are, Tom. 2 AA, 2 AAA. How many more teams, Tom? They've got 3 Pee Wee.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. There's 3 AA Bantam teams and then 1 AAA one. And then they have the minor midget, but yeah.
Well, it's going to be close to 8 teams eventually getting in on it. But I think experimenting with it with 3 U13 teams and their coaches, to me, that's an investment for me. Like I got nothing else to do. I'd love to see how it works, and it's something I haven't done. So I'm the same as the coach using it.
Can you?
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this here, Wally. I know you had trouble seeing the screen earlier, but I'm sharing my team screen.
I can't see it. No.
Yeah. I don't know, Tom, can you see it or no? Or
yeah,
Dominic?
but I just got my phone now, so I really can't read it. It's tiny.
Yeah, no problem. But
I can't see the shared screen. I'm not sure why that is, but
yeah. All right. It says it's sharing, but it's not a problem. Well, I mean, I could even set them. I can even, I can have them log into my, right to my account and see exactly, see how it works and why it works and how I use it. But I don't know if you so on my screen here, I sent this video out to the kids, surfing and swarming, good examples from practice. And it's just a video. I don't even know where the video is from. It's probably from, it's definitely from an NHL game, Carolina, Boston. And I'm able to, send it right to the kids and All it took was like a 2-minute, you know, a little 2 minutes of finding a clip.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to pursue this and approach it in a different way. I got asked to make an application. It was just as a courtesy being asked. And I think this is a real thing that might work, because mentorship hasn't worked for me at all, ever. It's just reinventing of the wheel. And how effective, like in what you do, Mike, your title is Hockey Solutions Architect, and I love your terminology of a proactive communication with the coaches. You're managing to sustain what you do full time in a developmental way. How big of an influence has power play been in that?
Yeah, pretty big, because it's just I'm able to it helps me manage my communication better, because it just allows me to, you know, do one set of guidelines that I want to send out, and I can go in, I could show you, I could offline, I could show you my screen, but I can go in and have like the same template that I want to send out, like my weekly Mike Benelli Hockey Solutions, thought of the week, and I can send it out to 7 different organizations, with just the push of a button. So for me, it's like, okay, how can I hit 300 parents and players within an organization with their coaches in the most efficient way? And the Power Player platforms allowed me to do that. There are other platforms out there. It's just like one of those things. Once you start getting comfortable with something, and all your data is all in one place, it's hard to go. Dominic uses Huddle. I was using Huddle for a long time, and then I went over and started using a different platform. And it's hard. Sometimes you're just like, well, listen, I like the platform I'm in because everything's in here. Like, why I can't change it? It's like switching email providers, right? So it's like, to me, it's just simple. But I found, I thought they, got to remember when I first started using Power Play, it was like $68 a kid.
Yeah.
It was unsustainable. I mean, I'm like, nobody's going to buy this. It doesn't make, it's not, you want to go for the masses. And now they've just added lacrosse. They have baseball. They have soccer. So again, it's, to me, we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago when I was on about tryouts. Like, to me, it's allowed the organization then at the end of the day to sort their kids at the end of the season and really see what their coaches thought about them in a rating system. That's basically the push of a button. Like, okay, I've rated them all year. I've seen them for 27 weeks. This is what I think about the kid. And this is where I think they should go for the next year. Not how they looked in the last 3 hours, but how they looked in the last, 20 weeks.
Yeah. No, it sounds like something I've sort of forgotten about. Let's slip through the cracks because I haven't applied it and used it, but I may be contacting you a little more, Mike, to pursue it. I don't know if this gentleman's going to stay president of the association or not, but all the organizations here, they need help. There's no doubt about it. And any way you can get your foot in the door with a tool that engages the coaches and the parents, it's a no-brainer. So I'm really glad that we got to talk about that. I really had no idea what the agenda would be today with the call. I've got, I mentioned Ken Babby and Billy Bridges coming on, hopefully on the 19th. Thomas Pacina wanted to come on again and show some more video. Now listen, for my sake, technologically, I'm going to see if I can share my screen with you, but I may have to renew my Skype to do that. So I'm just going to try to share my screen just for the sake of screen sharing. And I don't think I can do it. My screen that comes up. Do you guys see a scene?
Yeah.
Mountains.
Yeah, I can't get rid of that mountain. That's all I get. So I don't know what else to do.
You will have to go to, let's see, you're in Skype.
Yeah.
So
It says
you
split
on
screen or
the share screen button, you're sharing your desktop. I think you need to go to a window, like on the right. There should be choose the screen to share.
It says switch screen or a window.
Yeah, you want to go to a different window.
Switch screen.
Yeah.
Anything come up?
No. You got to go to a different. You got to switch window.
How do you do that?
So click on the share screen button on the bottom where you were.
Yeah.
With the little arrow. If you click on that, it should come up. On the left, it should say desktop, which you're on now, it looks like. And on the right, it should say window.
All I've got is confirm stop sharing, which is I've done. And if it says to click on switch screen or a window. When I click on that,
yeah,
switch screen comes up.
Yeah.
So I'm clicking on switch screen and nothing happens.
I guess my only other question would be, do you have another screen actually opened?
Oh, I see your cursor moving there now, Wally.
Yeah, you're on your desktop. I can see you're on your desktop. You just need to open up a screen. You need to open up. Do you have a video you wanted to show?
Yeah, I'll go to my site. Can I do that? Just show you a video?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see that.
By the way, I'm going to put this in the chat, but Thomas Pacina was on the Glass and Out. He was on Aaron. He was on Aaron Wilbur's podcast from the coach's site, and his interview was great.
Good. Okay, I'm calling this thing up. This is an old. Can you guys see that?
Attack my enemy. Kill the things I need to eat.
Can hear it.
That's a different window. I hear it. It's a different window, though.
I think I got a room full of eagles.
Listen
That's
up.
what some people are. Ducks. Got a few working for you? You see the
We hear it.
What? You know who they are? You got names already, don't you? You know who these little waddlers are? How you doing today? I'm fine. Room's too hot. Food wasn't there. Not enough coffee. He said I'd get the next laptop. How come I didn't get the new cruiser?
I'm trying to get this full screen
What a mallard.
to show to you.
Your job as a leader is to get this duck doing what? Soaring like an eagle.
It's hard to tell why.
You give
where
them
we're-
things that'll separate them from the masses. See, one thing about a duck, I call them ducks because they're like losers. It comes from an old thing that came out by Wayne Dyer years ago. They're losers. And losers got to be around what? Other losers. So if you get up with your attitude of neutral, guess what's going to happen? Some loser's going to attach himself to you. And next thing you know, you just quit soaring. If you come in like an eagle, they can't get you on the pond, you see. But if you walk in saying, how you doing? Fine. And you have
You might have to. I think what you have to do is, so we can hear your video, but I think what you need. I'm
you
pretty
get up with
sure.
gratitude. You get up with a positive attitude.
Yeah, I'd like to, I just put it on pause. I'm trying to figure out how I can share my screen because there's things I want to do at different times and I don't have that ability right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just it's odd to me that when you hit share screen, that the other window you have in your computer and opened, because like we can hear it, is not showing. But I got to run. I got to put some more floorball sticks together. But I do want to. I think next week, Stefan Matteau wanted to come on. So.
Hey, speaking of floorball sticks, where do you get your floorball sticks from?
I get them. Well, I make them here, so I get them from. I get them in Finland, though.
You want to? How much? Why do you get them in Finland? Just cheaper?
Yeah, well, because I can't get anything from China right now because it's shut down. But and I hate using China. But yeah. So right now the Excel Floorball is the company I work with. So they're probably the best sticks on the market. They're these, they just have a really they have a nicer blade, and this is the one we just did that for. Like Stefan Matteau has a bullying club he does. He does this big presentation on bullying and self-acceptance and stuff. So, but yeah, no, most of the programs I'm doing now, I'll do like a custom stick.
Yeah, because I'm just the reason I ask, I'm just looking to get some floorball because they don't in Europe. There's guys they do that in the summer all the time, and like the Europeans were like unbelievable at it. And I'm looking to try to get some floor balls, and I know there's a guy at Hockey Canada that I talked to a little bit, but I was curious as to where you get them from. So is there a concept that you have as far as getting that,
or the sticks, or you need everything?
I need everything.
Yeah, I'll send you a price for. We have a thing called a school package. So it's like 30 sticks, righties, lefties. Because I think you're really, for your level kid, you're really going to want a curved stick. You don't want straight blade because you want them to be able to really handle the ball.
Yeah, especially with the girls being able to.
Yeah, it comes in a bag, and I don't know. I could even probably get you. Well, I'll send you the pricing because we could even do them custom, like the one I did for. These are the ones. This is the one we just did for my program, the Connecticut Junior Rangers. So it's a nice looking custom stick, and I can do as small as usually I can do as little as 60 sticks.
Yeah, no, I'd be in for that for sure because we've got a small gym here. I'm running programs. I'd love to be able to supplement it. So if you could send me that.
I should have some pretty good video of the Zegers and Cole Caulfield using their sticks. I just got them, and they're doing all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, they're just they have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, if you could send me that. What's the turnaround typically with how long to get them?
Like 3 weeks custom.
Yeah.
I can get them out there. Cool. I mean, right now the biggest thing is it's shipping is nuts. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. So usually. But we can figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Like as I say, I've been trying to figure out a way to get them, but
I just started doing the custom ones, like the one-offs. Like I couldn't do custom unless I had like 300 sticks, but now I can do as little as like 60, no problem, basically around the same price because I build them here in Brewster, New York.
Oh wow!
But I'll get all the school information, and then we'll get Wally playing a little bit.
All right. Well, I'm going to figure this
figure that screen out
later. Guys, I'm going to have to sign off here. Thanks for a great another great session. Listen, if you want to get Stefan to come on, we'd love to have him. I've got nobody formally planned other than the 19th, possibly with Ken Babby.
I'm going to invite him for the 12th. So I'll let you know today. I'll be talking to him this afternoon. He'd love to speak about his book and really talk about his path and everything. I think he'd love it.
Real good. Take care. Okay, everybody. So long.
Thanks, Wally.
All right. Yeah.
See you there, Wally. When are you going to come ride the bike?
Well, my son-in-law brought a bike over. My bike got stolen, so he gave me his bike. I did 2 laps around the block yesterday. I'm not sure when, Tom. I'm just trying to get healthy enough to ride the bike around the block, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I'll come over. Okay. Take care, everybody. I got to sign off here.
See you, Wally.
Okay.